I don't come from the services side, I come from the structural engineering and architecture side of the industry, so this may or may not be relevant to you. What was interesting so far was, at least in this session, Amanda was talking about the young. And the young are changing already. So we're old fuddy-duds and we do it the way we do it. Well, this morning I was presenting at RMIT, second year design builders, right? So these designers, they're already working in BIM. They're designing in BIM. Sorry, they're doing it. End of story. Last week I was in Tasmania. The young architecture students were designing in BIM and creating the scale model through BIM. They were using 3D printers, they were using laser fabrication. They're doing it already. So their expectation is when they come out of their course, why the hell aren't you doing it? So that expectation's already there. So when we start talking about standards, are we talking about the standards of today, or are we talking about the standards of tomorrow? So just as a matter of interest, how many people here think that standards may inhibit innovation? Well, I think it's a lot less than I expected. Because the trouble with standards is that you're saying do it this way. And you create standards based on how we used to do it. So if we think about the changes that have occurred in the last 10 years. So we used to talk about BIM. What was BIM? Well, I like the EU definition, and I've been moving a lot of the Australian organisations to that. Why? Because it emphasises that building is a verb. It's not a noun. So we work with the Sustainable Built Environment National Research Centre, but we also work with the Cooperative Research Centre for Low Carbon Living. So the Low Carbon Living CRC talks about modelling energy, modelling carbon, modelling water. So when we talk about the world today, BIM is about digital technology. It's not always about a built asset, it's about precincts and all the rest. So we've got to recognise that the world is moving fast and that we in Australia in particular have to as well. This diagram, it's the same, it's the old, it's just a new version. BIM is used in the design, construction and operation. In Australia, we have the same issue as the UK. The UK has different BIM requirements for the different countries of the UK. Australia has different BIM requirements for the states and territories. Local councils, they ask for something different also sometimes. So what we are looking for in Australia is not necessarily BIM standards, but BIM consistency and BIM collaboration, which I think we do get. And AMCA's BIM MEPOS is a great example about collaboration of the industry as a whole. So all of these organisations NATSPEC works with, and these organisations work together. In particular, you know, we saw the pictures of Steve from China. We have an MOU with the China BIM Union. So this morning I was in RMIT, last week I was at Tasmania, last month I was in China. And actually a few weeks before that I was in Germany. Because we gather all that information, we share globally to advance the construction industry all over the world. So a lot of you have seen this. Take this as an example. The BIM guide that we developed in 2011 actually started as the requirements for Veteran Affairs in America. And this BIM guide was used, we drafted the New Zealand one. This one's being used as the foundation for South Africa and for Chile. And we've shared this with other countries who have taken bits and pieces. And of course, you get a series of things that become consistent, at least, for Australia. And it was about terminology and frameworks. It wasn't saying you had to do this, 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 and this, but it was a framework for common language. Nothing more. A framework for common language. Because if you asked for an apple, you didn't want to get a pear. You wanted everyone to understand what that apple is. So once again, I raised this thing about standards versus consistency. Go to our website. One of the changes recently, last year, we created the Australasian BIM Advisory Board. At the very first meeting, they asked, well, what is going to be your objectives? And I said, well, I've got my objective. I've actually got the different government representatives sitting in the same room, willing to share. Because before that, I had to visit all of them separately and try and get them on a common platform. So it's about collaboration. The Australians will also be aware of the National Digital Engineering Group. Okay, so we work across infrastructure as well as across buildings. Once again, sitting down with both groups, I got them to agree, building side, to accept what DE Engineering had developed as their principles, policy principles. Once again, collaborating and being consistent, whether you're talking about infrastructure or buildings. Sorry, I didn't know there was a bit of thing there. So, BIM process consistency. This will be released very shortly, hopefully by the end of September. It's in its draft stage at the moment. Once again, this particular document is about government departments thinking about BIM the same way, common language, and learning from each other so that you as consultants and contractors aren't getting mixed messages. So that's moved forward. And this one, because unfortunately we do have to bring them back to the start. Why are we bothering in the first place? From a client's point of view, it's not necessarily about construction. It is about what are you going to do with the information in the future? How are you going to use it for operation and maintenance? So you can see there, a lot of it is about asset information. Okay. So, big problem with consistency is everyone's doing it different. So with all the different disciplines, are you creating something that can be shared? If I make an object for this project, can I use it in different software? Can I use it in different projects? Once again, looking at consistency across the industry. And the great example is BIM Object. Having a consistent way of doing things has made it so much easier for the industry. Hey, just use BIM Object. So in the services side, that's well underway. Unfortunately, not so in the building and a lot of the engineering side, structural engineering side. So, as I said, BIM Object, fantastic. And when I travel globally, I always use it as a world exemplar. In the building and architecture, well, for years we've said use IFC, okay? And we kind of do, but it's complicated. You've got to be really techie. Now, I've got to admit, and I've presented many years on BIM, as someone has said, I'm a drawing board person. I've never even actually used CAD. That's how old I am, right? And I've got no interest in learning it because I can hire a young person to do it. But if I don't know the fundamentals of it, if I don't understand the frameworks of it, I'm going to ask them to be doing the wrong thing. Once again, a need for consistency. So IFC, yes, we support it. Open for everyone, it's consistent globally. In fact, we created a properties generator, and that is for the IFC, architecture and engineering, not services. We have created a generator where you put in one of the 120 bits and it will give you all the properties. But the sneaky thing is you can actually tick the box, because if you just want the cost information, you can rip that in to your model. That's been created by the architectural person. If you want to use a classification, and we have not only the Australian classification, we've got the global classifications in there, you can tick the box. and rip that into your model. Where we showed this when I was in Germany to a whole range of countries, and they actually want to import their information from their countries into it. We said fine, as a not-for-profit, you know, it's open for everyone. So we're looking at that. So it's this consistency that becomes important, and these are the types of things we've got in Australia, right? So, okay, so that's just some of the choices. You tick the box, and you can say, well, I just want geometric data, I just want scheduling data, or I want the whole lot. It's up to you. But having the same property name, that's the important bit. Because the world has changed. I mean, I'll be quite honest, I didn't know that. I work in databases, and as a designer, I work in structure. And I thought, oh, well, in order for me to share an object, I just had to have the rows and columns the same. And then I learned, oh no, you just have to have the property names the same. Oh, isn't that easier? Right? So this stuff's actually easy, it's not hard. It's easy. So we've got to start thinking about, well, how do we just advance? Don't treat it as a problem, treat it as an opportunity. I'm just looking at the notes that I was doing when I was listening to Amanda and Steve. What's changed? Okay. For years I got into trouble with Building Smart because they were always talking about an integrated model. I said that doesn't work. If I'm wearing my engineering hat, I do it this way. If I wear an architecture hat, I do it that way. And then I think it was 2 years ago, they started talking about federated models. Geez, it only took that long, right? But then I didn't know that you can do objects, centerline objects, because that gets over this architecture versus engineering. I can use the same object, whether I'm an engineer or an architect. Things like embedded information versus linked information, that was changed. Things like project models versus project databases. Now the China BIM Union is thinking more about project databases than project models. And I think they're probably right, but they've got a different system there. Information for computers versus information for smartphones. On site, how many people walk around with a computer or a tablet? But how many chippies, sparkies and all the rest carry a smartphone? That's where the information for different trades will be, as well as robotics, etc., that Steve was talking about. So where we are is there is a lot of information out there. The Australian market is becoming more consistent because the groups are working together. The Australasian BIM Advisory Board is bringing forward their information. We're releasing the Open BIM Object standard in September with New Zealand. So it's the Australia-New Zealand one. It was, we've spoken to a number of countries. We were working with some other countries, and I won't say particular which one, but they stabbed us in the back. So we're working with others. So that information we're gathering from you and globally to share. That's it. Thank you. Hope you're close to lunch.
Thank you.